This is the undersink water filter that finally got me to stop buying bottled water and quit relying on that sad little fridge filter. I picked up the Aquasana undersink water filter system because my tap had a strong chlorine smell and my coffee kept tasting off. I figured I'd try something that lives under the sink, has its own faucet, and doesn't require a giant tank or a drain line. After living with it day to day, I've got a pretty good feel for what it does well and what it doesn't, and why I think it's worth talking about in this video. I'd put this in the sweet spot of its category, more serious than a countertop pitcher or a basic fridge filter, but not as involved as a full reverse osmosis setup. It's for anyone who wants cleaner tasting water and fewer contaminants without replumbing the entire kitchen. It's not a good match if you expect the same speed as your regular tap, or if you can't drill or tap into your water line. If you're okay with a dedicated faucet and a slower pour in exchange for much better taste, this lands right in the zone. The installation tested my patience, but I did it myself. The kit comes with the parts, and the cold water tee is solid. The tricky parts were drilling the hole for the faucet and seating the tubing correctly. My stainless sink laughed at my standard drill bits, so I bought a step bit, took a breath, and went slow. For the tubing, you really do have to push it farther than feels natural into the push-to-connect fittings. The first time I didn't go deep enough and had a slow leak when I pressurized the line. I shut everything off, trimmed the end clean, pushed it in until I felt it bottom out, and that solved it. From there, it was just mounting the manifold high enough so I could twist the filters off later. If you don't leave yourself enough clearance, filter changes are a pain. Flushing the new filters is a real thing. When I turned it on the first time, the water came out gray for a bit. I let it run, set a timer, and didn't taste it until the water ran clear. Once it settled, the difference in taste was legit. The chlorine smell disappeared. My coffee tastes brighter and less bitter, and tea doesn't get that weird film on top anymore. Cold water straight from the faucet has a clean finish without tasting flat. It keeps the minerals, so it still tastes like water, not like something processed. I didn't realize how much the flavor of my tap had been bugging me until it was gone. Day to day, the big trade-off is the flow rate. It pours slower than a normal tap. Filling a big bottle can feel like it takes forever if I'm running out the door. I adapted by keeping a glass pitcher filled in the fridge, which also makes the beeps from the kettle less frequent when I'm making tea. If someone else is showering or the dishwasher is running, the stream can drop a little more. It's not broken, it's just how it's designed. If you're someone who fills pots and jugs constantly, plan on that extra minute or two. The faucet itself is actually nice. Mine is the oil-rubbed bronze, and it looks like a real piece of hardware, not an afterthought. Because it's a darker finish, it shows water spots more than a chrome faucet. I keep a microfiber cloth under the sink and give it a quick wipe every so often. The handle has a smooth feel and doesn't wobble, and it holds its position so I can throttle it down when I'm rinsing fruit or top off a glass without splashing. There's a tiny LED that glows when the water is running. Speaking of the timer, it runs on a little battery. The first time it chirped, it was in the middle of the night, and it was persistent. I learned to keep a spare CR2032 and a filter set on hand so I can swap everything right away and stop the noise. Filter changes are easy. Twist off, twist on. No hoses to undo. I replaced the main set around the 6-month mark. When our water got a little cloudy one season, the pre-filter clogged faster and the flow dropped. Swapping that piece brought it back. If your flow suddenly becomes a trickle after a few months, that first stage is probably full of sediment. Leaks were a worry going in. I haven't had a major one, but I did get a small puddle once after a filter change. I hadn't fully seated the housing and pinched the O-ring. Now I double-check for that firm click and run a paper towel around everything after a change. For peace of mind, I tossed a cheap leak alarm on the cabinet floor. It hasn't had to scream at me, but it makes me feel better. On the maintenance side, I set a reminder to reassess the whole unit after a few years. The plastic housings feel solid, but anything under pressure for years deserves a check-in. It's easy to forget these systems are taking the brunt of every on-off cycle. Compared to what I used before, this is a big step up. The fridge filter in my previous place barely touched the chlorine taste, and it was painfully slow. I also used a water pitcher for a while. It worked, but I was constantly refilling it, and the taste wasn't consistent when the filter aged. I've used reverse osmosis at a friend's house, and while it's effective, the water can taste a little flat, and the setup needed a tank and a drain connection. It also wastes water, which bugged me. This Aquasana doesn't waste water, and the taste has some life to it. The real benefits for me are simple. The water tastes clean and consistent. I cook with it now, and soups, rice, and pasta don't pick up that municipal tang. Coffee and tea taste better, and even my ice cubes look clearer. The dedicated faucet looks good and feels sturdy, so it doesn't make my sink area look like a science project. and the ongoing costs feel reasonable for the convenience. Filters last me about half a year. I twist them in myself, and I'm not hauling cases of bottles. Is it worth it? If you're craving better tasting water and peace of mind about the stuff you can't see, and you don't mind a slower pour or a bit of DIY, I'd say yes. If you want ultra-fast flow, or you're expecting it to lower TDS like a full RO system, this isn't that. But as a daily driver for drinking, cooking, and coffee, it's been exactly what I hoped for. I'd buy it again. If you've got questions I didn't cover, drop them in the comments and I'll try to help based on my experience. If you found this helpful, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next video. And let me know what filter you're using and how it's working out.